Mom, this is our first podcast since Trump got reelected president.
Yep.
It's been quite the week.
The second time. The third time, some of us would say.
I was telling you, I was on a huge political rant last night when someone asked me about one of our friends who knows nothing about politics. Like, he didn't even know who J.D. Vance was. Like, that's what I mean. Like, that level of not much knowledge. Oh my God, I basically gave him a whirlwind of information. He was like, I didn't know any of this. I was like, yep. So he was like, what is Project 2025? I was like, it's the greatest thing since the wheel. Hold on, I just want to turn the fan on. But yeah, that was my
headline. Right after the elections, somebody said, maybe it was Bannon. Oh, and by the way, his platform was Project 2025.
Not really. I still don't think he's ever signed off on that, right?
What's that?
I don't think Trump's ever signed off on that still, right?
No, he hasn't, but that is basically
right.
Maybe with a few items
off,
a little too extreme, but yeah, for the most part, that's what people voted him for.
Right. It's like, to my understanding, it's basically a bunch of people who thought that they might be in his cabinet or not, just throwing plans out there on a piece of paper to see what sticks. Because that's essentially what it is.
Not really that. It's the what is it, the Heritage Group?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah, you're right.
It's a conservative think tank made up of a lot of individuals that he does get his information from, or people that put out information, conservative information. But yeah, and there was nothing that radical on it. They just needed something to throw out there for the liberals to chew on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so radical.
I'm sure every president going into office has something similar. I'm sure there was a 2020. I'm sure there was a 2016. Well, 2021 and then 2017 and then whatever the year is. So.
Well, you always have every party has a platform.
Yeah.
The Democrats have a platform and the Republicans have a platform. The Republicans are always, smaller government. Democrats are always, decentralize it, make government huge for the people. So that's part of their platform. Pro-abortion, anti-abortion,
right.
Immigration, pro-immigration, and that's their platform. So Project 2025, they put together a platform for Trump, which seemed radical compared to how radical the country currently was with a full open border. So to say we're shutting the border down and we're not going to allow any more illegals to come in, well, that's radical to the liberals because, the border's been open for 4 years now.
Right.
And that's not what they want. So anyhow, that's why Project 2025 got a bad name for it.
Right. Is it raining outside?
No. Why?
Oh, what's that? There's like a tapping noise. I wonder what that is. I wonder if that's the mic. The mic might be jiggling.
Tapping my foot.
Oh, okay.
My foot.
Oh, mom's got the political itch. That's what she does when the. Have you been seeing all the liberal meltdowns?
Yes, I sent you some as part of my articles.
Someone had a decent post where it was like, the difference is we liberals cried. We didn't storm the Capitol. I was like, good point. But some of these cries are freaking, these are tough to watch. And
it's early yet. Wait till the riots during the inauguration.
Oh,
Wait till the riots in D.C.
But we were the bad guys.
Yeah, I know. We're always the bad guys.
Yeah.
I called it my idiot montage.
The idiot montage. It's funny to watch. I mean, you don't really see breakdowns like that, or you haven't seen one since the 2016 election. The famous lady that gets on her knees and she just starts screaming, no! Classic. Absolute classic.
Yeah.
For the record, I would make fun of any Republican doing the same thing. So it's not like if that's your outlet to get. Oh, Mom, there was a lady. Oh, I saw a really bad breakdown where you could tell. I mean, the mental illness is a legitimate problem. This lady she's got to be in her 30s. She's screaming at the top of her lungs, and her husband's like, calm down, calm down. She gets up and runs directly into a corner of a wall and like breaks her nose. I was like, how are you this upset about this? Like, in the end, your life's barely going to change. It's local politics you got to worry about. Yeah, most people can't name their own governors.
I was talking to a coworker from the West Coast, and as you know, your dad doesn't like to talk political stuff with people, especially work people. And he is a friend, but he's also from work. And he said the guy was just on a tear about how awful Trump is, and I can't believe this happened. Just what almost I introduced Dad to the term Trump derangement syndrome.
Well, you said he's
I hung up on him.
You said he's on the West Coast, right?
He is from California.
Yeah, there you go. even though California had the most, right, I think it's the most conservative they've seen it in. I forget how many years it was, but basically everything was red. Like I encourage people to see what the actual voting map looked like, because the voting map, I mean, it was, to call it a red wave is almost an understatement. It was a straight up red tsunami. Yeah.
Tsunami.
And I was basically explaining to people last night, because right, the big argument that the left is doing right now is, why did 20 million less people vote in Pennsylvania? And then you look at the voter registrations from years, like people are starting to see, oh, maybe there was some election tampering back in 2020, because they just, right, it's 20 million votes less. Now you can make the argument that 20 million more Democrats were fed up with the Democratic Party, and now they jumped ship and voted for Trump, which could make sense.
No, it didn't work that way, because the math still doesn't work out.
Is it that off?
Still not enough votes. Yeah.
I always wonder though how
in
many.
2020, when they said that Joe Biden outperformed Barack Obama,
which made no sense.
Right there, even Democrats didn't say anything, because that just makes no sense in 2020.
Right.
It just didn't make sense. So people were scratching their heads, but nobody wanted to say anything, right? So now moving forward, the numbers, and you look at it, and Trump did gain certain ones, but there's literally about 20 million votes out there that did not show up in this election.
Right.
Which is a little bit hard to believe, because to your point, if they were going to vote for Trump, he would have had even more than he had.
Right.
Based on the numbers that voted in 2020.
Right. That's why I thought the argument was going to be that again, I know a lot of Democrats who voted for Trump. I do. So, because they're tired of what the 4 years of Biden's been.
They all went back to Mexico.
Oh, wow. Wow. Which is fair, because you saw that the highest Democratic voted areas are areas where they've been bringing in migrants. Did you see that statistic? Yeah. So, yeah, the whole idea of the voter, it's all the places that don't have voter registrations.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody has a voter registration, but do they check
voter ID?
Right,
Yeah.
places where they don't check ID. Because technically, when you register is when you're supposed to show that you're a citizen, and that's the problem. That hasn't been happening. When you actually go to vote, you don't have to show any ID in some states, in most places.
Yeah. So those are the places that voted blue. Surprise, surprise. And then, we won the House. We won the Senate. Honestly, I'm going to say it. I think this is going to be an easy 4 years for Trump. I think this is going to be way easier.
I don't. They're already talking right now about slamming, before the transition to the new Senate, as many judges to put in on the federal court as they can.
Now, this was the debate that I was wondering last night, Mom, because we were talking about like the idea of fascism and authoritarianism. Isn't it kind of unfair for any party to, even if it's voted in, isn't it kind of unfair for any party to have the majority in all three, the House, the Senate, and the courts?
No, and that's not fascism, because fascism is centralized power.
Right.
And fascism has no guardrails.
The argument is the people voted them in, right? The people voted for them in, so it's not fascism, which it makes sense. Again, I guess that. But you do have the...
Hold on, it's not fascism because we have a constitution and we have checks and balances.
Right.
So if the president gets out of hand, it's the people in the House of Representatives who are technically the closest to the population, right? Because you have so many of them representing smaller groups. They represent the will of those people.
Sure.
And as things come along, as you've seen this past 4 years, or people who follow politics, they have their town halls, they have their meetings, they get feedback from people for things like, hey, stop giving money to Ukraine. And those representatives go back after each holiday and each break. And when they take votes, they're supposed to vote their constituents and say, no more money to Ukraine, even though the president wants it and the House majority rules, right?
Right. But in the end, though, Mom, like, even though I'm a person representing my people, I could say, no, that's not what I want to do. Right. Like, in the end, they're the ones that make kind of the deciding vote, even if the people say otherwise. Right. So my question is, I know it's not fascism or it's constitutional, but let's say you have a majority of Republicans in every single spot, right? Mm-hmm. And they're just going to say yes to everything that gets passed through, or have the ability to say, not that they're going to, but the ability to say yes every time. You're still monopolizing a certain side. So let's just say let's say that all Republicans voted the same and all Democrats voted the same, which I know is not true, but I'm just saying the mentality of you have more than 50% in the House, you have it in the Senate, and now you have the judges, right? The branch is that? Wait, don't judicial. Thank you. Jeez, I don't know. I was like judges. What's the excess word for Yeah, so judicial court. So when you have a majority in all of those, can't you make the argument that that's not? And I don't want to say fascism because to your point, it's not. But like you're going to get everything passed if you wanted to.
Well, no, not necessarily. It depends, right? If it's a major platform issue, and we have seen there's already some Republicans who are backtracking on the immigration deportation. Okay.
Right.
So even though they campaigned on it, even though that's somewhat the president's agenda, they still could vote against it.
Right. But again, as I'm saying, take other people's votes out. I'm saying if all Republicans voted the same, all Democrats voted the same, whoever has the majority would win, right? So, like the concept of that does kind of make sense in the sense of getting things passed.
Right, but there are term limits to these individuals, so they're going to be up for re-election. A fascist dictator could live out his entire life or her life as the dictator.
Right.
In this case, we have a constitution, and there are limits. And as we saw, the Democrats were able to put forth their agenda because they had the majority in the Senate. Mm-hmm. They didn't have it in the House. They had it under Nancy Pelosi. But they had enough to get things done with the president also, right? So, and also you have these things called executive orders. In my opinion, these executive orders are closer to fascism than the
right. That's what I brought up last night.
Anyhow, as I was saying, we have term limits, and you can vote people out. So if for some reason you feel as though, too much of the agenda, or you don't particularly care for, say, a Republican keeps voting against the agenda, and you put them in office for that reason, people will vote you out, right? As we just saw the last election, it wasn't even close, because the majority of the people in America did not like the direction it was going with
the Democrats.
Well, the majority of the Democrats running things. And by the way, some Republicans were kicked out too because they didn't like how they were handling things. So fascism is a much more... oftentimes the military is involved too, right? But it's more of a central control with one individual who runs all the houses. Nobody has to say. And they have the military usually behind them, or they take over the military. Similar to Mussolini, and a huge number of countries in Europe were fascist in right before World War II.
Right.
It wasn't just Italy. Everybody knows Mussolini, but I was going through the list of all the different. Sweden, for a short period of time, had a fascist ruler. They mentioned somebody, but he failed in the UK. Tried to run for prime minister. So,
really?
Yeah. Every now and then, it gets a little wanky,
Well, did you see all the stuff that Trump just being in office for the day, all the things that he's done in the sense of like everyone, it's almost like all the countries started folding, right? Vladimir and Zelensky, sorry, are now coming to a peace deal. Hamas said they're going to back down. I mean, it was just a laundry list of things. Russia's going to start selling oil back to the U.S. in USDs, right? They're going to try and bring back the
U.S. Well, yeah, Russia's now going to work with the dollar.
Yeah, right. We got our I forget what it's called, the petrol dollar.
LNG, I think it's called, because Europe now wants to buy from the U.S.
Yeah, liquid natural gas.
The European Union, which what I find even more blatant are the dropping of so many of these cases against Donald Trump.
Yeah, they're just dropping cases left and right now. Oh,
where the
happy birthday, Mother!
What the heck was that?
What did you do?
I didn't do anything. I didn't touch anything.
What have you done? Man, you're just having technical difficulty after technical difficulty today, Ma.
Telling you, who knows what's gonna happen over here?
Yeah,
that's my mini election celebration.
Yeah, really. Court cases being dropped.
Oh yeah, as a citizen, and the bill I heard for Jack Smith, right? 50 million tax dollars. No tracing of it, but that's what he spent on his case with the Mar-a-Lago and whatever else he was doing against Trump. And just out of the blue, like, yeah, all right, we're going to drop it now because
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that he's sitting in office. Okay?
Well, it's 50 million.
But it's just a
I know.
blatant, don't try and sit there and tell me, maybe you can convince your followers, but don't try and convince me that that was purely a legitimate case against him and it wasn't weaponizing lawfare.
Yeah.
I mean, at least attempt to look like you have some dignity and come up with some sort of legal reason why not. Oh, I can't do it now because he's president. I mean, even the judges who were rabid anti-Trumpers now all of a sudden like, yeah, we're going to drop the dates.
Right.
I'm not going to. I mean, come on. These are my tax dollars. I know you hate the guy, but where's the day of reckoning for that? I'm just so sick of wasting money on these things, and they don't even give a damn. It's not their money. It's our money, and they don't give a damn.
Yeah. So, yeah, the machine lost, as they say. The machine has finally lost, and now they're doing all the backtracking. Like I was explaining to our friend last night, like people don't realize how everything was stacked against Trump. Everything, media, politicians. I mean, you name it, and he still won by a landslide. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna go down as one of the biggest underdog stories in campaign history, I believe. I really do believe that. So it just goes to show. But again, it's not so much that Trump won; it's so much that the American people, are starting to see through the bullshit, which is a better feeling, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a wonderful thing to see as a citizen because I don't think the country felt it was going in the right direction, regardless of how you feel about Trump or how you feel about, my personal feelings about conservative versus liberal. Enough people in this country said something's not right here. We're not going down the right path, and we're not going to double down on the same situation. I laugh at all of them coming up with, oh, it shouldn't have been her. Biden should have stayed in the race.
Which is crazy.
Do they really think that that's what's made the
But
difference?
I think that, well, again, I was explaining to my friends last night, like she did everything wrong in this campaign. Like everything went the wrong way for her. From Tim Walz being the choice, like if not Buttigieg, Josh Shapiro, right? Josh Shapiro was vice president. He probably would have stood a chance against J.D. Vance because at least he knows what he's talking about. But they decided not to pick him because he was Jewish and the whole Israel-Palestine thing was going on. So they were like, oh, that's not a good idea. Then we have Tim Walz, who is arguably a pathological liar, right? He said, oh, I was the head coach at this school. We found out very quickly he was the assistant coach. So it's like a little lie that's a thing. And then the Tibetan Square. I served in the Tibetan Square. And then they fact check and they're like, yeah, you were there 8 months before that ever happened.
Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square. What is Tibetan Square? Did I make that up?
Tibet is a place in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
The Tibet.
Yeah, but so what's the right way?
Tiananmen.
T's and T's, whatever. But the Tiananmen Square, and we find out that he wasn't even there. He was like there 8 months beforehand, and then we find out about this affair that he's been having with the lady in China. So he had this affair for years while he was over there, and people are like, oh, you probably shouldn't have picked him. And then they go to Kamala Harris, hey, why'd you pick him? And her answer was, I was sleep deprived. That's not a winner.
No, it wasn't. I mean, she's a moron. Let's face it. She was a moron. She's always been a moron. We knew she was a moron 8 years ago or 6 years ago when she couldn't even get one vote in the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
She didn't fail. The Democratic Party
failed. Yeah.
Okay? They failed with Joe Biden in putting him in. That's why I say you could have left Biden in there. He wasn't going to win. It might have been closer. It might not have been a landslide.
Yeah.
But he wasn't going to win based on the policies and how poorly the Democratic Party have done things.
You want to know?
They've thrown open a border. They've let people just roam the streets. They enacted this agenda in the schools. They've gone after parents as though they're terrorists.
Yeah.
People don't realize this with the FBI. If you dare open your mouth, they come after you. They've completely destroyed the first 10 amendments of our Constitution in only 4 months. And then they turn around and they try and keep this guy in. He exposes himself as a disaster. They knew that was going to happen. They knew it, and they let it happen. Then they have to scramble to put his vice president in, and they weren't even going to put her in. But then they got pressure because they had to use her. Her campaign was a disaster, poorly run. You got and by the way, like I said, not just her. You got Barack Obama out there embarrassing himself, lecturing black men on what they should do. Then the wife comes in and doubles down. It just was poorly
I was about
run
to say,
all
you know
around.
who really screwed that campaign? The wife. Did you see what she said? The walls about the she goes during the how great the riots were, the BLM riots, and that she opened her window because she wanted to smell the burning tires. Like it is the most psychopathic shit I've ever heard.
Trump won his county.
Yeah.
So another reason why, who did the polling? Who did the prep work in the Democratic Party for this guy? Why would you pick that guy when he was so disfavored in his own district? You don't do that. So
Well,
the
Walls,
party really
he
failed.
wasn't the first choice. I mean, the first choice was going to be Shapiro, but they were like, oh, well, that was a bad idea because of him being a Jewish man. When in reality, they probably would have gotten a good bulk of the Jewish vote, right?
I don't know about that. I
Really?
don't know. Like I said, when we're talking a landslide like it was, it's bigger than the individuals. It's the policies. It's not just about, like I said,
Right.
they'll vote for, for
Well,
Kamala because it's not Trump.
well,
That wasn't even true.
my question though is, you and I know policy in the sense of we know that it's a talking point. How many people? I want to know one of these days. I hope that there's a statistic on it. How many people actually vote based on policy, and how many vote just on who they like and who they don't like? Because I bet you the number
No,
of Democrats that voted, or like, I bet you there's a huge number of Democrats that didn't like Trump, but also didn't like Kamala and decided not to vote.
I don't think you realize, and maybe I don't either, how many people in this country are struggling.
Oh, yeah.
They're financially struggling. They don't care about, maybe they don't care about the transgender thing because, they got to iron their kid. It's not that big a deal. They don't care about, the electric vehicles because they can't even afford the car they have. But when they can't afford, they go to the store and they can't afford to buy, Joe Scarborough thought a stick of butter was $3. Somebody told him, no, it's $7. He almost fell off his chair. Guy had no idea. No kidding. The elites don't get it, or the upper middle class, they don't get it. And there's a reality now. There may not be a middle class in this country right now because they can't afford to be middle class. You got the elites, and then you got really, really struggling people who can't get by.
What do you
And
call
mostly
what's the name of that? I forget. Not a caste system, but when you have wealth disparity that big, there's a name for it. I forget what it's called.
bourgeois versus the
Yeah, but there's it's like a government sort of term, like a governing body where the wealthy have the
well,
most
it's
and
never good to
not have a middle class.
Right. That's why you always hear, oh, tax cuts for the middle class. They always talk about the middle class because that's
Majority.
the base of the country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now it's changing. We have more and more elites and more individuals that have the high net wealth, right? And then you got other people. Like somebody said to me, a record number of people have traveled to Europe and the United States, but also a record number of people can't even pay their mortgage in this country. That's the disparity we have. And I don't think many of, especially in the East Coast, and I'm not saying that people aren't struggling here, but there's a good chunk of America that's fed up.
But what about the people that can't afford their mortgage but still go on a trip to Europe?
Yeah, well,
Unfortunately, that is a
yeah.
factor as well. And
Yeah.
I definitely know people who would do that, unfortunately. So I'm sure
But
that's
it's
not the
always,
majority.
they call them kitchen table issues. Kitchen table issues are the big issues. And the immigration, the illegal immigration in this country was not contained in the cities anymore. It was going into those suburbs. It was going into Ohio, Springfield, Ohio,
Yeah.
and parts of Colorado. We still have gangs running buildings in Colorado. My God, this is America. We don't like gangs run buildings. The mafia used to do it in the 40s and the
Well,
50s.
you saw what Trump said about the
Correct,
illegal
yeah.
immigrants, right? The new plan that he has to, he's like, if you're an illegal immigrant, or no, if you're a cartel member coming into the United States, like you will get the death penalty. Like it's very hard not to disagree with that, and obviously do something illegal.
If you're dealing drugs, if you're bringing drugs in, if you're a drug dealer, if you're a
Yeah.
cartel that's selling drugs,
If you're trying
yes.
to destroy America, you are going to get the death penalty. That's basically what
Right.
it is. It's a
Right.
fair
I mean,
statement.
it's a fair statement. We've been too lenient. Our justice, the justice system in this country is a mess, and individuals are feeling it on the streets, walking home. In New York City, people are getting attacked. there was a period of time where, everybody you got mugged once when you're in New York City. It happened. Like everybody had that one experience. But it was once every 20 years. Now it was happening on a recurring basis.
Right.
Regular people and they don't want to put up with it anymore. Whether you're a liberal or a conservative, whatever, they don't want to put up with it anymore. And I think the backlash was fierce. Those are kitchen table things. It affects them personally. They may not care about the electric vehicles. Like, how does that affect me? I'm not buying a car anyhow. But for those, or same thing with like transgender stuff, or even to some extent abortion, right? Some people in their 50s and 60s, that's not a priority when they can't afford their medications.
Well, what's wild to me, and this is one that I've been hearing a lot, this is like the media manipulation that I was talking about. So one of my friends last night said Trump wants to ban abortions, but that's not true. He just wants to make it state by state. So where do people run with this idea, or I should say Democrats run with this idea that he wants to completely get rid of it? Right? Isn't that just media driven?
Because they reversed Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court.
Right.
When the Supreme Court did that, which is what should have been done, it never should have been a Supreme Court decision. Not to say whether you're pro-abortion or anti-abortion. It was not handled right. They said it was in the Constitution. It was not in the Constitution. And the pro-abortion movement, years and years ago, well, actually for decades, and this is what Trump has been saying, they've been asking, they wanted it put back in the states. They wanted the states to decide. Why? Why do you have states decide? Because that's the closest to the people. Let the people of each state make that decision. What the pro-abortion movement doesn't like is the fact that a lot of states have said no, not at all.
So make it a government level.
Risk, right? That's the risk they're taking. They wanted to go into they wanted federally enshrined that no matter what, abortion was totally legal in this country, anytime, anywhere, at any point, even post-birth. Okay? They may say, no, we don't mean that. Yes, they want that. Eventually, they want that. Okay? So they'll somehow enshrine that in. And all Trump did was put justices in who looked at it and said, first of all, it's not a federal mandate, and the states need to decide it. And now the states are putting referendums in there. And guess what? Some of the states, they do whatever you want, like New Jersey, California, anytime, any place. You make the taxpayers pay for it, which I think is ridiculous. When did that become a thing? Why should anybody have to pay for your personal care like that? But okay, let's put that to the side. Okay, and other states like Oklahoma or whatever, they want none, and the people voted, and they decided none. And once you have a state that has none, well, the pro-abortionists, their heads explode. Oh, they're taking us backwards, and women are going to die. But the people decided it. That's what they wanted, and that's what Trump keeps saying. I did exactly what the pro-abortion movement wanted. I sent it back to the states, where it should have been. Let the people decide in each state what they want to do.
So you're just kind of proving my point. He never said, I want to completely get rid of it. So it baffles me how many people still run with that idea, that he completely wants to abolish abortion. Right, it's not true.
He personally has said he's not pro-abortion. He recently, like before the election, said he could tolerate, other than extreme, the 3 cases and stuff for life of the mother. Then we get into the weeks, the 15-week, the 12-week, the 6-week. Okay, I think some states were saying 6-week. He said, I think that's a little too early. I would support maybe 12-week ban or whatever. So I think I don't want to say he was hedging, but the point was it's not.
He's trying to answer it rationally. But for some reason, the right and the left don't like rational answers.
But it's not that. It's not for the president of the United States to decide that. And that was his point. I sent it back to the states. Or not he did, but the Supreme Court sent it back where it belongs. Let the people in each state decide it. Well, that's not good enough. And it's not good enough for the pro-life people either, because they feel life is enshrined in the Constitution. You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So right there, it is in the Constitution that abortion's wrong. Okay, you can have that argument, but according to the Supreme Court, they said, nope, it's not for us to decide. Let the states decide it, so the people decide.
I still think Obama had the greatest line, which was, that's above my pay grade. I still think that's a pretty good line.
We've learned that a lot of things are above Barack Obama's pay grade now after the election.
Yeah. Speaking of elections completely falling apart, hold on. Boom, boom. Did you see? So Kamala Harris's campaign election eve concerts cost up to $20 million as staff vendors fear they won't be paid. So I don't know if you saw this, but did you know that? So she spent $1 billion on her campaign, and now her campaign is $20 million in debt. So what's going to end? How does that work, Mom? Does the government tax dollars just end up paying that off because it's a presidential election candidate that just failed? Like, how's that work?
The last time this happened in the Democratic Party, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I read this recently. The Hillary and Bill Clinton Foundation, blah, 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 paid off the debt.
Really?
And all of a sudden, she became the favorite candidate over Bernie Sanders, if you recall, in the 2016, 2015 timeframe. Yes, they were in debt, and they came in with their mega millions and millions of dollars, and they, paid off the debt, and the DNC owed them the money. They loaned it to it, and next thing you know, she was running for office.
Probably a crazy interest too, right? The interest on that from the government was probably like, we're going to do 1,000% interest, right?
Well, remember, the point is she paid it off, and next thing you know, Bernie Sanders was out and she was in.
Right. Interesting.
Remember, Bernie Sanders was the most popular candidate back in 2015 for the 2016 election against Trump. Mm-hmm. They bumped him. So this isn't a recent thing with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has been a mess since at least 2016 because they completely burned Bernie Sanders felt the burn. They completely did him wrong and just put Hillary in. But she bought and paid for it when she gave them the money to bail out the Democratic Party.
Right. But yeah, so I was just curious because it's been a while since I've seen, again, I've never heard of an election going into debt, a candidate going into debt. But it also kind of goes to show that a lot of that money went to people being paid to go to these, or not paid to go to these rallies that she had, but it probably pays for Beyonce being there. It probably pays for all these big celebrities that didn't want to go there. And the last people to be paid are the vendors, the people that were just giving out food or whatever.
Well, I just want to make a comment too. I don't know if he got paid, but they're all coming down hard on George Clooney. Okay?
Yeah.
Because of what he did trying to get Biden out. And I'm saying, like I said, let's all step back for a minute. Forget about Trump. I always say this about the Democratic Party. Just forget about Trump and, derangement syndrome. Let's take a step back and take a look at that party. You're all upset because what made George Clooney, the valedictorian rocket scientist, that he should be picking and deciding who should be running for office?
Yeah.
Okay? That's your problem, too, in the Democratic Party. If this is what you're hinging your decisions on, maybe you want to take a step back and say, who the hell is he?
Yeah.
A Hollywood actor, made a lot of money. Great. Kudos to him for that. If I need help producing something, maybe he's the guy to go to. But picking the future leader or leader of the free world, and they're all coming down on him because he managed to convince, wrote a letter and got Joe Biden out. I mean, do we hear ourselves here?
It would make more sense if it came from his wife, right? The wife is like a Nobel Peace Prize winner or whatever, right?
Oh,
is it?
I'm
At least that would make
hearing
sense.
about how wonderful she walks on water, this woman. And by the way, she was one of the however many nut jobs on the International Tribunal Court who decided, we want to put sanctions against the Hamas leader for October 7th, but we're also going to do it on Netanyahu. Okay? This is the genius coming out of these people. So in other words, FDR should have been brought up on charges because of Pearl Harbor and not just the emperor of Japan.
Right.
Because they bombed us, they attacked us, and we had the audacity to respond.
Do you think do you think that's like hey, we're gonna do our best not to pick a side here, so we might as well just hit both? Right.
Well, I think it's a bunch of liberal, nut jobs who refuse to deal with the fact that the Jews were attacked in Israel.
Oh. Well, that's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole other story.
What do you want to do? Okay, so now that we're in the post-election, how about we talk about Georgetown students offered post-election Legos and Coca?
Cocoa. Hot cocoa.
How come I've never seen it with an A at the end?
I don't know, Chris.
What?
It's always at an A. You got to scroll down, though. Scroll down a little bit and show people the schedule.
I was like, wait.
The schedule.
Well, I was just confused because why do Legos and Cocoa go together? You know,
That's
I was like, is that a
extraordinary.
brand? Okay.
Okay, so from 10 a.m. to 11, you could have tea, cocoa, and self-care. From 11 to 12, Lego station. This sounds like a kindergarten class. Okay, we're talking Georgetown
Hold
University.
on. Milk and cookies, Mom?
Yes.
I might have to claim.
Legos and coloring. All right, do you see that? I thought this, I knew it wasn't a joke, but I looked and said, this could be like a funny SNL skit. This is Georgetown University. I mentioned this to your grandmother upstairs, Miss Proponent of the Jesuits. They were wonderful her whole life. I said to her, this is what's going on at Georgetown. She thought I was kidding. She goes, oh, Irene, stop making up. Mother, I'm telling you. This is just in the political school, I think it is. Okay?
Yeah, which honestly, they're probably all losing their minds. But
some school in the Midwest, and I can't remember the name of it. It was not a major name school, but they were asked about canceling classes or what they're going to do, and they said, "No, we have adults here at our school. We're not doing
that's
that."
a good answer. But
Yeah.
I will say this is pretty enticing. I might go in there with my hair pulled out. Be like, wait, tea, cocoa, self-care? What kind of self-care? Can I
Look
get
at
a
the last
massage?
one.
Yeah.
Self-guided meditation at the end of the day.
This is perfect.
Okay, what is it at Georgetown? $85,000 a year to send your kid there.
Oh my God. As a proud member of Generation X, it blows my mind. I wish, again, do I get credits for it?
Some of these schools cancel classes for this.
I know,
Can
which
you
is
believe
ridiculous.
this?
I
You
remember.
know, school.
I was just about to say. I still remember the safe spaces that we had when Trump got elected. I was like, no one's going to these, and literally no one did.
Started in 2016 over Hillary, and they're still doing it, and it's total bullshit. It's a game that they're coddling, and honestly, I'm curious to see who goes to these things. I bet you they'll do it as a joke, right? People show up as a joke.
Yeah.
They're coddling individuals. Acting like we have to take, it's that mentality. We're the university. We're going to shape them. We're going to take care of them. We're going to teach them how to think.
You know who it is, Ma? You know who's going to these? These women. Leftist women shave their heads in protest of Trump victory. Fucking being hot. That's what the patriarchy wants. I mean, hey, it's working.
Oh my God.
Weed them out.
Not for anything, but could they find some pretty ones to do this? It's never pretty ones.
Oh man, YouTube's gonna suppress the fuck out of this one.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, you saw there's a movement going on right now, like women are going to protest having kids because Trump got elected. It's like, you're just proving our point, right? You're proving that you are crazy people.
Here's the thing. Maybe get a date, first ladies, before you protest having kids.
You'll notice it's never the attractive ones doing this.
Yeah, that's my point. It's usually,
always the
ones that were never going to have kids anyhow.
Oh, man. Mom's going in hard today.
A date?
Yeah, really. Like, that's not even a real person. That's an AI.
Is it?
Yeah, I can tell by the shading. Getty Images, Lisa one. Yeah, it's not a real person.
Okay, well, whatever.
They couldn't even make the AI attractive. Look at that nose.
They can make an AI prettier?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, these are the kind of people that are going to the safe spaces. If you're shaving your head in protest, it's not a cancer organization. It's just you being I bet you didn't even donate the hair afterwards, you pieces of shit.
Well, here's the thing. We can laugh about it now because we know the majority of the people in this country don't want to hear this.
Exactly. And we have proof of that now.
That was the message. I don't want to hear it anymore. And I've read some great articles from individuals. One was a dentist who just went off about, you called me every name in the book. You called me a Nazi. You called me garbage. You called me deplorable. And then you have the nerve to say to me, how could you not vote for me?
Yeah.
For my candidate?
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Absolutely right. Let these nuts shave their head.
Can you explain this one to me?
Oh, okay. So this is the FEMA supervisor.
Okay, I know really nothing about this. FEMA is in the people that were giving the money to the
Federal Emergency
Management. So it's this person. Gotcha.
Yes. So she's one of the supervisors who they're investigating right now because apparently she told the people they have a list of things that they have to do, priorities when they go into these areas to save people. And one of the things she said was, you don't bother going into the ones with Trump flags.
Do we have proof of this, or is this just alleged?
If you scroll down, you see her list that was sent out. Now, I'm not familiar with the communications that they use in FEMA. Keep going. No, further down.
That's as far as I have.
Oh, is that in that one? Okay. There's maybe it's a different article, but there's a list of things, and somebody highlighted that was one of them. And a whistleblower came forward and said, and
Oh,
people went in because you have to, when you make a call, you have to log in and you have to put the information in. Oh, yeah. Scroll down to this.
yeah. So they
Right.
did it in
Okay,
Twitter messages.
right. So when they went in, they'd have to put down no contact Trump household or something like that.
Trump signed no
Made no
contact.
contact Trump sign.
Interesting.
Okay. So now they're bringing her in to investigate.
She'll be fine.
Personally, heads have to roll for that. Somebody has to pay a price for
Yeah,
that.
because that's not a matter of when something terrible happens. It's not a matter of politics. It's a matter of helping people. So if you're deciding, if you're the person that's making the decisions of who gets to have their life better or not based on a flag outside and who they voted for, yeah, that's a lady that should be in prison.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Not, oh, she's going to lose her job. That's the least of what should happen
Yeah.
to this individual.
I do not care if you have a Kamala flag out. I mean, you deserve to get the help that you need as
You're
an American.
paid by those very people
Yeah.
and their tax dollars, whether it's a Trump flag or a Kamala flag. Frankly, probably more so with a Trump flag, but that's your job. And can you imagine? This is one person. How long has this shit been going on that we didn't even know about it?
Yeah, that's a scary thought. But do we even know what the outcome of the FEMA stuff was? Like in the sense of, did the North Carolinians end up getting more money than that $700 that Kamala promised?
I have no idea, but my guess is you weren't going to hear about it running up to the election with a Democratic Senate
Yeah.
and the House of Representatives that can't get out of its own way right now. So maybe they're investigating it. I'm sure they're probably, it takes nothing moves quickly with our government. If they open up an investigation, it'll be months and months and months. And now nobody's doing anything right now because of the transition.
Right. So what's this one? Harry Etten, who I've heard of, describes President Trump's historic mandate. These numbers are
Well, you
basically.
want to talk about the election, so I
Yeah.
pulled something to talk about the election, and this guy is this is CNN. He's been he's been a thorn in their side the whole summer into the fall with the numbers, and he has been saying, not to the extreme landslide that we saw, but he was kind of paving the way, saying, you know what, she's not trending very well. He's trending much better, blah blah blah. So he kind of went through it step by step of where he did better, and his showing, he did the best in 20 years in ages 18 to 29. He's done the best in 48 years with black voters for the GOP, 52 plus years for Hispanic voters. Wow. So that just gives you an idea of, how deep and new, it hasn't happened in so long, Trump did in this election. So he didn't just win it. He has completely turned our electorate around.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how historical this is. Like, it doesn't hit you because you're part of the history, I guess. But like 10 years from now, you're going to look back on this like, holy shit, like I can't believe he pulled it off. One of my favorite liberal meltdowns, I shouldn't call it a liberal meltdown, but the guy that's like, he's apparently nailed every election for like the last 10 elections. He's only been wrong once, right? He was wrong about this one.
Is that Nate Silver or somebody like that?
Yeah, but he was like, he was like, like you could tell he did not like being wrong. And even, I think it was CNN was like, so what happened? He's just like, like you could tell he
many of them are pulling out I didn't realize how racist this country was.
Oh, that's
I didn't realize
hilarious
how
one.
misogynistic. It's a load of crap, and this has been going on. This propaganda stuff has been going on for far too long with the polling and with the media. I mean, I've seen more than one headline saying, mainstream media is dead.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody getting information from mainstream media right now, don't even bother talking to me. That's how I feel. Don't even bother trying to have a debate with me or talk to me about anything if that's where you get your news, because it's not news.
One of the big things that everyone's been talking about is kind of a fair subject. If Elon never bought Twitter, do you think Trump would have won?
I think it was an integral part of it because the messages were getting out. Nobody was getting the message, but it's hard to say because a lot of these policies, back to what we said originally, Twitter doesn't make a difference to the person who can't pay their grocery bills.
That's true.
Right? And we didn't have Twitter for many years, and oftentimes when the economy was bad, people voted, and they made sure. But I think what Twitter was able to highlight a lot of the irregularities that were cropping up post the 2020 to make people aware of what to watch out for, how to be prepared, how you have to do your part, right? And how you have to get out the vote. I think it was integral for that more than anything else. Because, you would have had a lot of propaganda coming out of Twitter.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true, too. Did you see that he's thinking of buying CNN, allegedly?
Oh, I didn't see that.
I don't know how I feel about that in the sense of I feel like then when you have one person owning two major news organizations, I don't want anyone owning those organizations. I mean, I understand someone has to, but it's kind of a weird, what's he going to do, buy it off Soros?
Well, the interesting thing with CNN, I remember years ago asking somebody, where did they get all their why they are such a big deal? And you take for granted, I don't know if it's still true, but CNN used to be in every airport, at every plane. They dominated as the generic news site. And that's how they got their platform, basically. You had to watch them. That was the only choice. It's not like you could flip around in an airport years ago when that was the only thing that they streamed, right?
Isn't it?
Nowadays, people take their own apparatus and do their own thing. But 10 years ago, you were stuck. You had to watch what was ever. I remember watching it with you in the Vegas airport when you guys were babies because it was nothing else. It was the middle of the night. So you had to listen to CNN. Back then, they were a little bit more news-oriented. Right. What's going on in the world? CNN today, da-da-da-da. Now it's more on another political channel, just like a Fox News, just like anything else. And they can't dominate as much anymore because people have options.
Did you?
So it's a little different. He can buy CNN and he can own Twitter, but it's not the only game in town anymore.
Right. Isn't it wild that Rogan's podcast outdoes every single news organization combined in one episode? Donald Trump's interview is almost at 350 million across all platforms. That's insane.
So I saw an interesting, I didn't bring the article, but I was reading something interesting about the Joe Rogans of the world, and somebody brought up a really good point. That young demographic, that 18 to 29-year-old male, right? The forgotten citizen in this country. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why the Joe Rogans and the Andrew Tates and the Tim Pools, these more masculine voices.
I don't know if I would put Tim Pool in there as masculine.
You can put others.
Sorry, Tim Pool, if you ever see this.
Well, what you guys know, but guys on social media, which originally more young men were drawn to at first through gaming and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to be said for, when you screw these people and you screw a whole age group like that, they're going to look for an outlet that they can relate to. And a Joe Rogan and his, I'll say cast of characters for lack of a better thing, and his attitude and his, not misogynistic, but masculine, about men, about guys, they have a tremendous platform. And they tapped into something with these young men, and eventually women and others who got involved, and grew their audience. And I laugh because I will say the Democratic Party and maybe even some Republicans, they created the Joe Rogans and the Andrew Tates.
Oh, yeah,
they
definitely
forced young men into a situation where they had no other source, nothing they could relate to, and these guys filled a vacuum for them on social media.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what it is. I'm trying to find, Bernie Sanders had a great line the other day, kind of based on what you're saying. I wish I could find it. I forget what I saw it on. I think it was on Twitter, but basically it's the idea of how he's not surprised that the people that you completely forgot about for the last X amount of years voted against you. He said it in a much better way. I'm just kind of throwing that out there, but that's what I mean. It's kind of like Bernie Sanders is kind of the voice of reason right now in the Democratic Party of this is our fault. This is the Democratic Party. Did you see that he's talking about election interference now in 2020? He's the Democrats basically stole it somehow. So he's going to have the hand. He's going to,
like I said, he got burned in 2016. He was the first victim of it.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anybody more happier than Joe Biden the day after Kamala Harris lost.
Yeah. When he gives his speech, I called Donald Trump last night.
Somebody did Somebody had him walking across the lawn. They wrote underneath, "Yeah, you know he voted for Trump."
Oh yeah. Well, JD Vance, I told you JD Vance on the Rogan podcast. He said, I would bet $100 that there's a 50-50 chance that Joe Biden voted for Donald Trump. And it's a fair statement, but also he's like, I bet you Hunter Biden voted for Trump too, because Hunter's probably like, oh, please, whatever. But
and if you take a step back, again, that's what I'm saying. This is how messed up that Democratic Party is. They always pick on the Republicans, and yeah, we have our own problems. I get it, but it's just by any other measure, if it wasn't Trump, I don't know that the Democratic Party would exist right now.
Did you watch?
I really don't.
Did you watch Nancy cry? Did you see Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, jeez.
She was like,
No,
holding an American flag. I think she's like, it's like a.
Might be time for me to break out my crying Nancy Pelosi toilet paper that your brother got me.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Oh shit! What was I gonna say? Did you watch Biden's passing of the torch speech? I forget what you call it, but basically the congratulations to Trump. I did like his line. You can't only be an American when you win. You can't only be happy for America when you win. And I kind of like that line. That's a good line. But I like the smile on his face while saying it.
Don't have a short memory. You know, that's what these politicians bank on, that people are stupid and they don't remember. I remember that guy calling me every name in the book. Nazi.
Garbage.
Trump, you're garbage. I'll never forget that with these individuals, you know? Will I hold it against him? Hell yeah, I will.
All right, let's talk about some more fun stuff because we just did an hour on elections.
Well, no, we talked about FEMA.
Well, government stuff. So
and
next week, Mom, we got the big Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
Oh, I was wondering what happened with that fight.
Now people are getting a little upset because I guess Mike Tyson's not so much the medical injuries that he's had, but he's just, again, people are starting to realize, oh yeah, he's 50.
Okay, he's getting old.
He's getting there, unfortunately, when it comes to fighting. So, unfortunately, we've talked about this before, but let's talk about it one more time before this fight happens. There's really no winner in this, right? If Tyson somehow lands a punch and Jake Paul goes down, Jake Paul's going to be known as the guy that lost to a 50-year-old. And Mike Tyson, let's be honest, he's not going to look good in this, right? If Jake Paul wins, you're the guy that beat up a 50-year-old, a guy that you have 31 years, that you are 31 years younger than. Yeah. There's no benefit. Like, no one wants to watch this except for the old generation that wants to see Mike Tyson fight one more time.
The only thing that might work is if Tyson legitimately beats the crap out of Jake Paul. And people may say, well, he's staging it, right? And maybe it could happen legitimately, and Paul will say, yeah, I caved. I didn't want to embarrass the guy or whatever. We may never know, but I think that's the only, not decent, but legitimate outcome that people could say, oh, Tyson beat the crap out of him. It was pretty good. But is that going to happen? I doubt it.
Yeah. It's not going to go well. Everyone's going to be very let down by this fight, I believe. And I think that's why everyone's like, why are we doing this?
Is this one of those pay-per-view things?
No, it's free on Netflix. If you have Netflix, you can watch it for free. So that is the nice thing that they are doing. But again, you're either going to watch one of your idols get destroyed by a 6-year-old, or 24-year-old, or you're going to watch Mike Tyson get a lucky hit on a 26-year-old, and he's still going to be the greatest of all time, I guess. It's kind of, as I said, there's no winner or loser in this one. They're both probably going to make a crap ton of money, but okay. I
guess it'll be entertaining if you enjoy boxing. You see one style, old style versus new style.
Well, boxing's, I'm going to say it. I'm going to take the heat for this one. Boxing's such a boring sport now because I used to have one of the my boxing knowledge isn't fantastic. I know a little bit, but there was a famous boxer back in the day named Klitschko, and he was known for the clinch. He would hold the person at the right times because boxing, you can hug someone to weigh them down, call certain things. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's become everyone like will get punched once and then they grab and then they break them up and then they punch again and then they grab.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's what boxing's become. The one good thing about Mike Tyson is he's not holding them. He comes from the old school boxing where there's very little clinching up.
He'll
Whereas,
bite your ear off.
yeah, really. Hey, he's apologized. He's a new man now. But Jake Paul, on the other hand, if you watch his fights, again, I will say Jake Paul is a good boxer. I am not one of those people that thinks he's a fake boxer. But there is something to be said about you can't punch, be in danger, and then just go right into hugging the person to get some time.
Right.
Like, yes, that's part of the sport, but also it's not entertaining. So that's where the kind of time difference is going to be, right? You're going to have Mike Tyson who's either going to be gassed out by the hugging the whole time, or he's going to land some crazy punch that Jake Paul just isn't ready for. I would not be surprised if you see Mike Tyson almost get angry at all the hugging. He's going to say, "What are you doing?"
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. So that's why I hope that's where if Jake Paul was to get knocked out, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be when Jake starts coming in for the clinch and Mike just like uppercuts him or something. That's his best chance of winning.
It's always funny when you watch a show like Rocky, and anybody who knows boxing will say, "Yeah, nobody can fight like that for."
yeah. When you watch Rocky,
The whole time they'd be dead on the mat. So it's a little deceiving because you expect that when you see a real boxing match, and it's not like that at all. There's other things that they do. Oftentimes it's a lot of dancing, and you get a couple hits in, and that's it. But they're big hits, when they do land them. So. Yeah, you got, like I said, you got the old style versus the new style. Let's see who does better. I'm sure Tyson will get some good hits in, and maybe that's all he expects. Maybe that's all he wants to get out.
We hope. Again, I think there's a huge difference between sparring and actually being in the ring with someone. So, unfortunately, they picked a day for this boxing match, which is when John Jones is fighting Stipe Miocic in the UFC, which is going to be a massive pay-per-view. So it's going to be very interesting to see how many people actually watch this Mike Tyson fight.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. It's a pretty big.
On purpose with it, or is it competition?
My guess is they're at different times on that day, but that's probably the only time that Netflix could do it, right? So Netflix is the one that picked the date, and I don't know if Netflix knows how big the UFC is, but I'm watching John Jones versus Stipe over Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, and I think most people who are into fighting will probably watch that instead, or they'll have it on two screens, which is definitely possible too. Like we'll probably all be watching on multiple screens, so that's just kind of.
Yeah, it's odd that they would put them on the same day like that.
Yeah. What else? Let's get into some YouTuber news. I don't know if you saw this one. Mom, this is where I get so mad at these freaking idiot streamers. So this guy, I've heard of his name before. I've never watched his content because I'm not 5 years old. But this guy goes to South Korea and basically just annoys the shit out of the public. It's basically what you would consider like civil disservice. I forget what it's called, disturbing the peace, right?
Yeah.
And then thinking, oh, I'm an American or wherever the hell he's from, I can get away with it. Worst comes to worst, I just get kicked out of the country. So Korea says, hey, guess what? You're under arrest for 10 years, right? In South Korea.
What did he do?
Like, Mom, he'll go on the train, make a scene. Like, he's one of these freaking annoying. Again, I don't care how big or how small I am. Guys like this should not be allowed on the internet. 100%. I think guys like this need to be just banned on everything. If you're going to start ruining other people's lives in other countries for content, then yeah, you're the problem. So that's why I'm so sick of these freaking streamers that make us look bad. But either way, so now he's in jail and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize the consequences of my actions. I hope this guy does all 10 years. I really do. I do not want him getting out. Do not help him, America. Trump, if you're going to pardon him, don't do it. I will call you directly.
Trump's got too many other people to pardon.
Yeah.
But it's South Korea. It's not North Korea.
Yeah, good. Ship him to North Korea. See how he likes it.
We never hear from him again.
Yeah, please. But like, it annoys the shit out of me when I hear these stories because it's all for clicks. This guy's a 5-year-old in a 22-year-old body or whatever he is. Now he's stuck in Korea. Good for you, idiot.
Korea, though?
I don't know. He probably thought that he had a chance. He just goes around. He did the same thing in Japan, or I think. So it's like, this is what the internet, TikTok, whatever has become.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Well, I agree. They make money doing crap like this. I mean, it's like easy money to do it if you get the the views, the likes, the this, the that. So the more outlandish, the more outrageous, the greater your chance of getting people to watch
Watch
it.
it
Right?
is, yeah. And the demographics, 5 to 13-year-olds. Yeah. I bet you if I looked at his demographics, it's 18 to, it's like the 18-year-olds that never grew up, probably a couple 21-year-olds in there that have daddy issues, and then
Georgetown.
3-year-olds. Yeah, the ones at Georgetown. Exactly. But yeah, I hope this guy does some time. I hope.
The Legos and the cocoa.
And if he gets out of there, I hope they put him in American jail just for being such a freaking garbage person. All right, so let's talk about this one real fast.
Chris.
Nothing annoys me more than streamers that do that. Nothing annoys me more. Streamer who's haunted Nintendo faces $7.5 million lawsuit for pirated Switch content. So we actually talked about this a while ago. You might remember this story. There was a YouTuber, I forget his name. It's like Every Game Guru. He was a guy that was doing pirated Nintendo games on stream. Yeah. And remember, he was like, I can get away with this because you guys don't own the rights. Like, there was a lot of things he was doing with modded content. And now Nintendo's like, hey, cool story, dude. Here's a $7.5 million lawsuit. And honestly, it's tough because, well, again, I'm always kind of against Nintendo in this, in the sense of, first off, 7.5 million is insane for pirated whatever you're doing, or whatever. Yeah. Again, you should be hitting the person that is making the pirated content, not the person that's just playing the pirated content, right?
Right.
So go after that guy, which my guess is that's probably part of the lawsuit. Where'd you get it from? Whatever. Now, unless he's the guy that is streaming unreleased Switch games. A streamer who gloated about relentlessly streaming unreleased and emulated Switch games. Yeah. So my guess is, and I'm just kind of going based off the story, I don't remember it completely. He was probably running a jailbroken version of a Switch. So he probably figured out how to jailbreak it and then play all these games. But if that's true, then yeah, you deserve a lawsuit. But again, 7.5 million is insane. And you know, it's funny that, remember that Pow World game that we talked about, which was the Pokemon ripoff, which is also Nintendo? Like, they're only suing them for like maybe $10,000, maybe a little bit more. So it's just kind of funny.
Obviously, they're trying to send a message, and they probably, because it's so much money, they'll reduce it down if he offers up where he got the games from.
Exactly. Yeah, like how to do it and whatever. Right. So Nintendo's always been kind of scummy in that situation, because like if you play a game that's just, or if you make a game that's just kind of like Mario, they're like, oh, here you go, here's your lawsuit, you'll never be able to make a single dollar for the rest of your life. It's kind of like Disney with whenever you try and use a Disney name.
Well, I mean, you can't blame them. That's their money. That's how they make their money.
You know? Yeah, you can't. But I always question, Mom, like, how come I'm sure there's laws and regulations, but they're not an American company. They're based out of Japan. So why are they allowed to sue someone based out of a different country as much as they want? I would think that there's certain limits.
Usually, not always, but the parent company is Japan, and then they have subsidiaries in other countries. Mm-hmm. The subsidiaries have to follow the rules of the countries that they exist in.
Oh, okay. So technically, it's the American version of Nintendo probably suing the guy.
It could be. It might be. You know, it's Nintendo, which is a Japanese company, but they'll open an arm in the U.S.
So are you saying Nintendo World in New York City suing the shit out of this kid?
Could be.
Yeah, that would be funny.
Or, you know, because you have to, you can't do an international court. So for a lot of reasons, they'll open up satellite offices. Companies do that. AT&T, you know, your company, they open up satellite offices so you can deal in those marketplaces with the rules and regulations and the laws, and also employees from there that know their way around it. So when you have situations like this, you have grounds. Otherwise, what would they do? They'd have to bring this person into international court. I mean, it becomes too expensive and ridiculous.
Right.
Or extradite him to Japan. Yeah, he didn't break the law in Japan. He broke the law in the U.S. So there's all sorts of jurisdictional things, and it just makes sense to have
Japan. They just decapitate him with a samurai sword, I think. Just.
No, you have to commit suicide.
Yeah, seppuku.
Harikari. With a knife in your gut.
Yeah.
In shame for pirating a Nintendo game.
Yeah. That's really all I got. I don't have much else.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I had.
You ended on that.
I got a text message because I was with the neighbor yesterday, and she asked me to get her Christmas tree. and
Already?
I guess she didn't need. Mom, we had this conversation yesterday. She's had her Halloween stuff out since like August, so it's that kind of person. Hold on one second.
Wouldn't you completely skip Thanksgiving and go right to Christmas?
Basically, yeah. Couldn't
That's
even
not
wait till
good.
after.
She's got a little time. Oh, I've said this before. Some people have to celebrate a Christmas type of Thanksgiving because they don't see their family.
Right.
Their family stays home. So the only time they get together is over Thanksgiving, and people do the whole Christmas thing also, which I think is a shame. You deprive yourself of the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah, me, I don't even have a Christmas tree. I don't need
Well,
it.
maybe you get one this year, but
Eh. Where would I put it, Mother?
in that giant apartment of yours.
In this giant multi-story apartment. All right. I mean, again, I don't know if we have anything else to really talk about. We've pretty much wrapped it up.
Yeah, not much going on this week. It's not Veterans Day on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
now that
On Monday.
now,
Happy Veterans Day.
now that voting's over, I feel like I'm kind of bored. Now that we have the answer,
Oh
I'm
no,
like,
it's gonna get busy. It's gonna get crazy. You
okay.
watch.
I'll take your word for
In the
it.
days and weeks ahead, things are gonna get crazy out there. You're gonna see weird shit coming out of the Democrats. They're gonna try everything under the sun to stop this election, stop this inauguration.
Oh yeah. Well, right, you saw Chicago already started their protests,
Yeah,
which
I'm
I don't
sure.
even know what happened to that. They were like, "Oh, we want Trump out," and then I guess they just stopped. They're like, I guess this isn't worth it." They're like,
done.
whatever. But
You said the majority of the people in this country have spoken. They don't care. I
yeah,
don't care anymore. Throw their asses in jail.
they
There you
didn't.
go.
Yeah,
They'll stop it.
they didn't get enough media coverage, so I guess they stopped.
Listen, protests, they had some pathetic one through. Was that the Chicago one you're talking about with the weird looking signs? I have no problem with that. Go ahead. It's your First Amendment right. Walk the streets of Chicago to the wee hours. I don't care.
Just don't
Don't
destroy
break
stuff.
any laws.
Yeah,
Don't
just
destroy
don't
stuff.
destroy.
The minute you do that, whether you're J6 or you're walking the streets, the minute that happens, your ass goes to jail.
Yep.
That's all.
And if you block a highway on the 405, you should definitely be hit by a car. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If
There
you,
was, Holman, what's his name? The guy from the border.
oh, I know who you're
HMA
talking.
now.
Yeah,
You've
I know
seen
who
him,
you're
right?
talking.
Okay. So somebody was interviewing him and just trying to make a point. This is how bizarre they are. She's like, you believe in deporting people and sending them back? He's like, absolutely. She goes, what do you do with the children?
He's like, they
You
can go
send
back
them
with,
back
with their parents. Yeah, and she
Right?
couldn't even
So they
respond.
try and make an issue out of something. There's no issue. They just go back as a family. How is that? What do you think we're going to do? Keep the kids here?
Yeah.
That to me would be asinine. Send
That
them
is,
back with their
I
parents.
saw that. That was a 60 Minutes interview.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I only saw a clip of it. And, God bless the guy because he's absolutely right. And then there was another representative on another channel this week. Same story. They're like, how do you do these deportations? Because it's really not that hard. You
Yeah.
just get the police involved and you send them back.
It's
we managed to get them here. You send them back.
It's probably harder now just because we can't keep one. We allowed way more than we should have, should have, and now it's harder to track them all down. So that's probably where the difficulty comes. But
No, the beauty of it is, Chris, you don't even have to do that. It's a win-win. Look what the dope in New York City mayor did. He's not giving them debit cards anymore. That's how you start. You squeeze them out. If they can't get a job, and when you tell employers, if you hire an illegal, we will throw your ass in jail. Guess what? They can't
New
get
York,
jobs.
all of a sudden, New York makes a huge 180. They start
of course.
yeah.
They're all starting to do that. But that's the point. You don't have to do. We don't have to do anything.
Right.
Just cut off the freebies, and they'll go back willingly. Especially now that it's winter. Even your old grandmother said like a couple of years ago they're coming. She goes, "Oh, they're not coming up here. It gets too cold in the winter. Like, they're not used to the cold up
Yeah.
here." But now there's no incentive if they don't have a place to stay. They don't have the. Of course they came. They got everything free. 3 meals a day, a card, a phone, and a place to stay. You start taking all those things away. Oh, you can't do that. That's inhumane. Sure you can. Give it to somebody who pay taxes who need it.
Right.
And let them go back to their country and let their country take care of it. So that's the process. There was a town in the Midwest years ago. They had all these Somalian immigrants come in. And the town voted, and they took over the whole town. The town voted, no more stuff. We're not giving them anything. They left the next day. Literally the next day, they were out of that town and moved on to the next one.
Wow. Okay.
I can't give you the name because I read this article like last year. But it happens, and it makes sense. You cut people off, they'll leave on their own. There's no incentive for them to stay anymore. If they don't have a job, no path to a job, and there's no freebies, they might as well go back down to their family.
Yeah.
It's the criminals who stay. And that's why they say we're getting the criminals out first, which I'm fine with that. Start with the repeat offenders, start with the ones in the jails, start with the ones that they sent that were, running on our streets and trying to murder people. Ship them back to the country that sent them. Let them put them back in their prison and support them for life.
Yeah. All right, Mom. Well, we'll end it on that note. So the only thing I have to promote.
That's a happy note.
Yeah, really. The only things I have to promote. So, man, we had the podcast this week. We had a Call of Duty veteran video come out on Wednesday, and then yesterday I posted Finding Frankie, so go check those out. Then there's also going to be a speed run for Sunday, because now we start posting the speed runs, because we took a month off, 2 months off, I think. And that's pretty much it. So this comes out on Monday. So how many weeks do we have till Thanksgiving? Because we'll probably have to do a podcast the week before Thanksgiving, like a live one.
Well, that might happen because I might be in your area.
Oh, you're coming down for Thanksgiving?
No, the week before.
Oh,
You'll
week
be
before.
Here for Thanksgiving, I assume. Well, yeah, you'll be here because you have an appointment on the 25th.
Right. Yeah, we got after this. We'll have to figure out some. We'll have to figure out some scheduling after this podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to chat with you and I have to talk to Dad too because at some point your grandmother's heading south for winter.
Oh yeah. Grandma
Geese. We're going to call it
Grandma Geese.
What is it? Mother Goose. Mother Goose is going south for winter. And that's going to be not next week, but probably the week after, right before Thanksgiving.
Right. So 2 weeks. So not next week. The week after that, you'll be here.
I should be at some point down there in your neck of the woods. I don't know which days. We could chat about it.
I don't know if I want my mom with me.
What's that?
I don't know if I want my mom in my apartment.
I probably won't be there long, especially if I rent a car to take her down. And then you would drive back with me, but that's.
Do it that way. Oh, that's smart. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we could just do that drive.
Yeah, I don't really want to do the drive myself with Grandma.
That's fine.
Because I'm not getting a lot of. Well, I have to get down there somehow with her, so that's why I have to talk to Dad, or maybe ask Michael to stay, and either Mike's not gonna watch her drive, but maybe he can watch the dog. That's what I mean. I have to talk to Dad and figure it out.
A lot of parts, but either way, so we're figuring out the schedule on that one. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So social media, promo codes, stream links, Discord down below, and we will see you guys next week. And I will see you guys at stream. So, laters.